Chapter 109, Monday, 4th of November. We have a whole hour read. It's not as long as I would have liked to spend with you because we've so much catching up to do, but still there is a lot we can do in an hour, hey? And who of us in life has the luxury of time, hey? You're shaking, Red. I can feel you're nervous, aren't you? Not so confident as earlier in my van when you jam your sharp little fingers in my eyes. You blind me in one eye, hopefully just temporarily. That's my dominant eye too. Lucky for you, I've never have missed it. If I aimed with that eye, I'd have got you the first shot, but that's history now, like you, like me. Soon we're both going to be history. Red was silent. He was gripping her wrists so hard they were hurting. The mobile phone on the desk in front of her began ringing, a soft, persistent wobble. 4 rings, 5, 6. It stopped. We could, of course, have much longer than an hour, Red, if I could trust you. She could feel the heat of his breath on her neck and a minty smell as if he had brushed his teeth. Her brain was racing, trying to think what to do, what options she had, what to say to him. The phone began wobbling again. I know all about this room, he went on. Your safe room, designed to give you an hour of protection. Impenetrable for 1 whole hour. That's how long it would take anyone to get the door open. Even your new best friend, Detective Inspector Branson, and his eager little boss, Detective Superintendent Grace, would take an hour to break in here, throwing everything they've got at the door. Well, I'll tell you something about your options. Would you like to know your options? I'd like to know how you got in here. I bet you would, Red. I'm an escapologist. I'm the best. I know you're the best, she said. Maybe pandering to his narcissism would lower his guard, she wondered. You're brilliant. If an escapologist can get out of something, he can also get into it, yes? So how did you? Easy, Red. Your neighbours in the flat above our way. I went in and cut a panel out of the ceiling. So convenient. I cut away the one right above your toilet in the safe room. I knew no one was going to look up and spot the joins. You see, the plot aren't that smart. You think they could protect you? Well, you just learned a big lesson. I know the police think they're protecting you by surrounding the flat, but they can't see into the one above you. I'm not worried about telling you that little secret because you are not going to be around to share it with anyone ever. The phone stopped ringing. Know what I think, Red? About what? I think the phone is going to start ringing again in a minute. You never told me you were psychic. Instantly she regretted saying that. His response was filled with vitriol. There are a lot of things you never knew about me, you stupid, stupid girl, so much. You never gave me a chance, did you? You and your mother and your moronic yes man father. She stayed silent. It's not going to take your police friends long to figure out where you are and that I'm in here with you, Red. That's why they're ringing this phone, because you're not answering the landline. They've had they have seen my van out in the street and phone you to tell you to come in here. If you don't answer and tell them you're fine, they'll start breaking in 1 hour. It will take them, and you know what they will find when they do. Through her terror, Red tried to think about what she could say to him to play for time somehow. Did you ever see Romeo and Juliet, Red? Or maybe you acted it in a school play, perhaps. It's a terrible tragedy of misunderstanding between lovers, you and I. We're like a modern day version of that story, aren't we? Do you remember the last time the as they both lay dead? For never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. Still, she said nothing. So very sad, Red. They died so needlessly, just like you and I are going to die needlessly, unless what? She replied, sensing the smallest window of hope. Chapter 110, Monday, 4th of November. Twice Roy Grace and said to Pacey's Buffett as Glenn Branson swung the car right into the Westbourne Terrace. The blue lights off now and slowed as they saw the marked patrol car in the side street with 2 officers in it. Yes, sir, Spofford replied. I've rung it twice and there's no answer. Try it one more time, Grace said, then turned to Branson. Drive up the street, I want to see the van still here. As they neared the top of the junction with the wide residential street, New Church Road, they both saw a white Renault van parked on the right. Branson halted alongside it. Grace pulled a torch out of the glove compartment, jumped out. He shone the torch on the front number plate and instantly picked up the numbers and letters 47CP. In the beam of his torch, you could see 3 mobile phones lying on the passenger seat. Then he shone it at the rear compartment, but it was curtained off. He went around to the back of the van, which had blacked out curtains, and saw the door handle had been removed, leaving a small hole. There was also a small gap between the doors. He was tempted to break into the vehicle, but knowing Lawrence through the incendiary device, he knew it was unsafe to do so, and in case it did not appear there was anyone inside. Suddenly he became aware of cyclists alongside him. Detective Superintendent Grace, I'm Adam Trimmings from the Argus. I live nearby. Something going on? Boy, you guys get everywhere. Gwen Branson said to the elderly journalist as Grace shone his torch into the rear through the gap in the windows and squinted the handle hole. Shit, Grace said. In the beam he could see what looked like a torture chamber. There were mattresses with arms and leg restraints bolted to the floor on either side. I saw a hole door lying on its side from which Hatsfield pliers and a small blowtorch. A transformer connected to a car battery with calipers on long cables, several horror masks, and an angle grinder. Oh Jesus, Gwen Branson said, peering over Grace's shoulder. Then a flashlight started. The flashlight startled both detectives. The journalist had taken a photograph. Chapter 111, Monday, 4th November. Unless, Bryce said with a taunt in his voice, unless, Red, the phone began wobbling again. Unless you answer and tell them you're fine, that there's no problem, well, then we'll have a little longer. How does that sound to you? The fourth ring began, then the fifth. Okay, she said, okay, I'll do it. Smart girl. Red left her to arms released. She stepped forward, picked up the phone from its charger code and pressed the green button. I think if I should heard Rob Spofford's voice. Red, are you okay? I'm fine, never better. Is there a problem? You're not answering your phone. I was worried. Then she's going to help me, spinning around as she died, and seeing Bryce for the first time. He was dressed all in black with a hoodie. In one swift movement, catching him off guard, she stabbed the phone as hard as she could into his good eye. He staggered back. She twisted her wrists right and left ground and in further, trying to gouge his eye out, hearing his grunt of pain. Then brought her knees up as hard as she could between his legs, slamming into his groin. With a gasp, he staggered backwards and fell over. She leapt onto him, hammering at his head as hard as she could with the phone, feeling the plastic crack in her hand, but still continued pounding him, pounding again. Then suddenly, as if she had found some superhuman strength, she felt herself being levered off the floor and propelled backwards. She fell painfully against the edge of the table, and instantly leering with rage. Bryce was standing over her, red wheels around her eyes, holding a boning knife in his hand. He went blinking wildly, his mouth filled with spite. You bitch, fucking little bitch. I'm gonna kill you, you stupid fucking bitch. She lashed out with her foot and felt a searing pain as the blade cut into her ankle. She squirmed sideways, grabbing the chair and held it up in front of her as she stabbed down hard, the blade thudding into the side of the seat. Help me, she screamed, hoping the phone call was still connected, hoping someone was listening there, someone was coming to help her. An hour, bitch, a whole hour. She swung the chair, striking him on his hands, knocking the knife out of them, then swung it the other way, striking his knees. He took a panicked step back. The knife lay on the floor midway between them. Scream all you like, bitch. They're all listening and they're helpless. They're going to listen to me killing you. But what? But only after I've taught you first. I'm sure they'll enjoy your screams, but not as much as I will. He lunged for the knife. Chapter 112, Monday, 4th of November. Roy Grace's phone rang. Yes, she's in there with him. Spofford said, we have to get in there fast, sir. How do we get through the sliding door? Grace asked. Is there no other way in? There's a window, sir, accessible from the rear, but she's 2 floors up. So how the hell did he get in? Grace said. Then he thought a moment. The man was cunning. He was a magician. A lot of magic tricks worked by distraction. The conjurer focused your attention away from the pocket he was going to pick, or the coin he was going to slip up his sleeve. Bryce Frank could have seen the safe apartment as a challenge. He was remembering the words of the behavioral psychologist Julius Proudfoot. He has to win. There's no possible option for him. He would kill Red and then himself and see that as a grand act of defiance against you. 1 hour. Lauren had equipped his man to capture and torture Red. Was he aware it would take 1 hour for them to get into the safe room? If so, was he planning to use every minute of it to torture her or to torment her until the end? For better or worse, then at least gave him a bit of time. Call the fire brigade, he instructed, on a ladder that will reach that window and tell them to no sirens or lights. There was a fire station barely a mile away. They could be there within 5 minutes easily, he thought. He turned to Branson and jerked a finger at his car. Spin her around, get us back down to the front of her building. Less than a minute later, he jumped out. Before it had come to a full halt, ran over the police car and jerked open the passenger door, flashing his warrant card. Yes, sir, DC Susie. Holiday said, come with me to the rear of the building, please. He looked at his watch. By his calculation, 20 minutes had elapsed. Every single second was critical. He wondered what the hell was happening inside the safe room right now, and he just had to hope to hell that Red was still alive. He was thinking hard, trying to work out how Bryce had got in with police outside the door, and then suddenly he knew the answer. Chapter 113, Monday, 4th of November. As Bryce's hand reached the boning knife, Red threw the chair in desperation. The seat struck him squarely on the head, sending him reeling. He crashed into the louver door splintering and fell backwards into the toilet and lay there motionless. Red launched herself at the knife, seizing it, clamped it under her armpit, and began frantically turning the wheel. But she only managed half a turn when she heard a noise behind her. She spun around, saw Bryce lumbering in rage towards her, blinking furiously. She gripped the knife in her right hand and held it up, threatening, "You stupid girl. Think I'm afraid of you with that knife? Come on, stab me. Come on, stab me." She stood her ground, the blade held out in front of her, and she could see, despite her terror, that it was worrying him. She lunged forward in a feint, and he stepped back, almost losing his balance. She lunged forward again, another feint, and now his back was against the busted toilet door. He grinned at her. "Okay, Red, you have the knife, but you won't have it for long, I promise you. Have you thought about where you were going to stick it in me? Like you've got one chance, right? Do you understand that? Straight through the heart. Anywhere else, you're just going to wound me. And if you do that, I'm going to get very angry. You don't like me being angry, do you? Remember all the times when we were together and you made me angry? I'm not a nice person when I'm angry. I'm not a nice person with a knife, Bryce," she said. He pounded at his lips, mocking. "Ooh, fighting talk." Suddenly, he took a step towards her, a big step. She jumped back in fear. "Brave girl," he taunted, holding up his hands in a gesture to show he was unarmed. "Perhaps you're not as brave as you think, Red, are you? I'm not sure you have the guts to stick that in me, even to save your life. Shall we put it to the test?" He took another step towards her. She was shaking so much she could feel the weapon jiggling in her hands. Christ, where are the police? Why couldn't she hear anyone trying to open the door right behind her? Bryce glanced down at her watch. "Hey, it's okay, we've plenty of time, Red. They haven't even started on the door yet. That's when the countdown really is going to begin. And what a sight they're going to find in here, eh? I'll tell you what I'm thinking would be nice." He smiled, showing his immaculate white teeth. "How about the police finally break down the door and they find you severed head on the floor, staring at them, with me lying on my back on the floor with a knife through my heart? How good would that be, eh, Red? Eh?" He took another step towards her. She held the knife out determinedly. "Stay where you are," she commanded. "You killed Carl. Don't push me, Bryce. I'll kill you with pleasure." He took another step forward. Now he was just 2 feet from her. Before she could react, he grabbed her arms, holding the knife, and wrenched a harsh scream in pain. The knife fell to the floor with a clatter. "Oops," he said. "Clumsy monkey." They stared at each other in a momentary face-off. Red felt her terror return. She had to get the knife back. Had to somehow. Suddenly he lashed out with his foot and kicked the knife, sending it skittering across the floor to the wall, out of reach. "So who's the big brave girl now?" he taunted. "Where is Mummy now? Why isn't Mummy here to protect you? Mummy who had the private dick to spy on the little girl's new beau, eh? Perhaps your daddy's going to come through the door with a pea shooter of an air gun he used to kill bunnies in his garden. Do you think, eh?" Red stared at him. She felt paralysed with fear. "Because I don't think he is, Red. Mummy and Daddy are nicely tucked up in a safe place, probably watching a movie." He then mimicked her mother's voice. "Well, the thing is, darling, we're not allowed to tell anyone. They've moved us from the hotel, but I can't tell you where in case it sounds ridiculous, I know, but in case Bryce is listening. But you're okay, you are safe." She stared at him in shock at the realization he had heard their conversation. How many more had he heard? "Are you safe, Red?" She stared at him, then glanced at a knife, trying to find a way through to him. She was never going to beat him through physical strength, she knew, but maybe she could find a way to reason with him, to keep him talking for long enough. The police had to be on their way. Surely. She was so terrified it was hard to think straight. She had to keep calm somehow, had to think clearly. "It's sharp, Red, sharp enough to cut off your head or mine. Shall we have a race to see who gets to it first? Would that make you happy, cutting off my head, Rice?" "I wouldn't want to cut yours off," she said. "No?" He gave her a mocking grin. "Really, I wouldn't. It's the most beautiful head I've ever seen. Why would I want to destroy such a beautiful person?" He stared at her, and for an instant she wondered if she might have got through to something in his call. "Really?" "God, yes, really, Bryce." Then he shot a glance at his watch. Keep going, Red, keep going." She shrugged. "I really did love you." "I know you did. I really loved you too. But didn't Oscar Wilde say in the Ballad of Reading Gaol that each man kills the thing he loves? You're in a very literary mood tonight." "I am, yes. I've been doing a lot of reading lately." He shot a glance towards the knife. "Much nicer to die with the beautiful words in our heads, don't you think, Red?" She saw him lunge at the knife and threw herself at it in the same time. They collided on the floor. He had it in his hand and raised it. She jabbed her fingers at his eyes, but he jerked back. his head. Then she bit hard into his wrist. He screamed in pain as she heard the clatter of the knife falling to the floor. "You bitch!" he screamed. Somewhere behind him, she heard a sound like a door slamming as they both grappled for the knife. She touched it fleetingly, then he had it in his hand again, and an instant later he was kneeling over her, pinning her to the floor. The knife raised above her. There was a crazed gleam in his eye. "Who's Daddy's girl now?" he said. "Which eye would you like me to cut out first, Red? Your right or your left, eh?" She tried to move, but he once again seemed to be fueled by some superhuman strength. "Please, Bryce, let's talk some more." "I don't think so." She saw the knife hurtling towards her, then suddenly it stopped in midair and flew out of his hand. She heard a cracking sound like electric static. He began to shake violently as if he was having an epileptic fit, twisting and turning in a macabre dance. An instant later he was on the floor, jerking a trail of twined coiled wires running from his back and through into the toilet. Her voice shouted urgent, "Red, are you okay?" Sis switched from the twitching body to the face of Detective Superintendent Roy Grace, clambering down from the loft hatch above the toilet before standing next to a man in a blue body armor, helmet and visor who was holding what looked like a pistol with wires running from it. Grace hurried over to her, casting a quick look at the stretching figure of Bryce. "You okay?" She stared into Grace's cool's blue eyes. Her heart was pounding, her heart throbbing. For a moment she found it hard to speak. "Yes, thank you, I'm okay." More people are coming down through the hatch now, also wearing helmets and visor. "You safe, Fred?" Grace said gently. "It's all over." They were the sweetest sounding words she had ever heard. Chapter 114, Sunday, 10th of November. Roy Grace knelt by his open suitcase, carefully folding a white shirt and laying it in. Cleo put a vodka martini down on the bedside table. "Thought you might like a little celebratory drink." "Thank you." He took a sip of the ice-cold liquid. It was so strong it almost going down. You're getting really rather good at these. It's been my father's favorite drink for years, remember? "Yes, here's a killer ones, meaning this isn't strong enough?" He grinned. "It's plenty strong enough. A few more sips of this and I've no idea what I'll be packing. There's only one thing I really need to bring." She put her arms around his neck and nuzzled his ears. "And the way I'm feeling about you right now, he's not going to fit into your suitcase." She nuzzled his ear again. "You're wicked and I love you. You're a horny beast and I love you." Detective Superintendent Grace. She lifted the glass off the table, took a sip herself, pressed her lips against it and let the vodka martini slowly slip into his mouth. He said. "So we really are going off tomorrow, darling?" Only a week later than the schedule. He reached up and held her hand, brought it to his lips and kissed each of the fingers. "I love you so much." "I love you too." He smelled her scent and the warmth of her breath and pulled her arm tighter around him. "How's the poor woman Red Westwood doing?" she asked. "She's okay. She's a plucky lady. I popped into her office yesterday to see how she's getting on and to ask her a couple of things, and she seems remarkably perfectly honest considering. But she has one big worry, which is Laurent being released. Surely he'll be kept in custody. For now, yes, but he might not be in jail forever. If he gets life, he still might get out one day. Red knows that. God, poor woman, to have that hang over you and the constant fear of being released or worse, escaping. I don't imagine she's going to be joining another dating agency anytime soon. I don't blame her." There was a massive explosion outside their window. Both of them jumped. "Shit, what the hell was?" Roy said. Downstairs they heard a yelp from Humphrey. Then he realised it had been the 5th of November, bonfire night. A few nights ago it was probably people still letting off fireworks. Noah began screaming. Cleo leapt to her feet and hurried through into the baby's room, almost tripping over Humphrey, who came hurling up the stairs into their room like a hairy black rocket, whining and whimpering, his tail down. He was sopping wet from recently being out in the terrace in the pouring rain while he had been fiercely barking at neighbour's cat on the wall. "It's okay, Humphrey, it's okay." There was another massive explosion and a shower of brilliant white lights outside the window. With a yelp, Humphrey shot past Roy Grace and jumped straight into the open suitcase, turning himself round on top of his own white shirt. Hey, get off, you idiot dog." The dog gave him a reproachful look, as if to say, "You're leaving me, and with these explosions?" Noah's scream increased in volume. "That's my best damn shirt." Cleo came back into the room, cradling Noah in her arms in his blue and white striped sleepsuit. He was bawling his eyes out. "Look at the sodding dog," Grace said. "Look what he's done to my shirt." Cleo grinned. "Welcome to domestic bliss, my darling. Still sure you want to go away?" For his answer, Grace picked up his glass and downed the rest of his drink in one gulp. Chapter 115. Monday, 11th of November. Alan Setterington, one of the governors of Lewes prison, stepped out of the shower in the changing area, towelled himself dry, then dressed in his dark grey suit, white shirt, and one of the selection of his bright ties he liked to wear. It was 7 a.m. and he was invigorating after his 90-minute cycle ride through mostly back roads of success from his home to here, his daily commute. He was a tall man in his 40s, with boyish good looks and the lean figure of an athlete who had spent his entire career in Her Majesty's prison service, rising as a relatively early age to his current position. In his previous role, he had served at several of the UK's maximum security prison and had had the dubious pleasure of meeting some of the most notorious criminals of his generation. Setterington still retained enthusiasm for his job, not letting any of his residents bother him too much and rarely losing sleep over any of them, but today he was a tad tired. A few days ago, character Bryce Thorne had been remanded in custody on murder and arson charges. There was a coldness in Laurent's eyes that he had seen on just a few occasions in life, a darkness, as if he had looked into some unfathomable depth of inhumanity. Visitors always found prison uncomfortable places, and Lewes, built in Victorian time, was as formidable as they came. Grey cement floors, stark bare walls, and the smell of all prisons had, which he had never fully been able to describe, a mixture of disinfectant, institutional soap, stale clothes, sweat, and despair. Information was the prison currency. Everywhere you walked, you could see prisoners in their crimson tunics, loitering, listening, seeing what information they could eavesdrop, which was why no sensible prison officer ever said where he or she lived, or what car they drove, or where they were going on holiday. You never knew who might one day be out for revenge against you. Setterington went into the office and switched on the kettle to make himself a cappuccino, then sat at the desk and unwrapped the egg and tomato sandwich and carrot cake his wife Lisa had made him. The office was dark and functioned with a window that looked down through the green into the Southern exercise yard. In addition to enabling him to keep an eye on the prisoners, he could also see from here the occasional package of contraband that was lobbed over the walls from outside, containing usually either drugs or mobile phones. Guarding 720 prisoners, many of them highly cunning, was not an easy task. Setterington did not like it, but it was a fact of life he had to live with. That stuff always had been smuggled into prisons and always would be thrown over the walls, exchanged in contact between loved ones during visits, sometimes mouth to mouth. If a prisoner wanted something brought in from outside badly enough, he could usually get it. The governor logged on his computer and began running through the mountain of overnight emails, noting concern that officers had about particular prison security risks and details about pending construction work to modernise the remand wing, which would be commencing in a few weeks. He was interrupted by a knock on the door. "Come in," he called out. One of his officers entered, a burly man called Jack Willis, keys dangling from the chain on his belt. "Morning, Gob," he said. "Sorry to bother you so early, but I've got a prisoner on the remand wing who's been asking to speak to you. Says he's very urgent. Did he tell you what it's about?" "I wouldn't say so. He's a bit nervous." Prisoners giving information about fellow prisoners could be highly valuable, but at the same time, a lot of them were worried about being seen as snitches. Punishment meted out to those suspects by their fellow prisoners were brutal. There was an elaborate procedure in place where they would be seen in an interview room rather than be observed going to the staff office. Any contact between a prisoner and a senior staff member was noted by other prisoners and queried rigorously. I could bring him along to an interview room. 10 minutes later, Setterington sat beside a small table in a room well away from the prying eyes of any other prisoners. The officer showed in a gangly wire man with a shaven head and stoop posture, who Setterington had known for many years. Darren Spicer was in his early 40s and looked 2 decades older, thanks to most of his life being spent in prison. He smelled of cigarette smoke, a career high-end house burglar. He was a true recidivist, what they term here as a revolving door prisoner. He had a string of previous convictions for drug dealings and burglary, and regularly ensured he got arrested around this time of year so that he could spend Christmas in prison. Although he never became emotionally attached to any of his prisoners, Setterington had time for this man. For all his sins, life had dealt by a shitty hand, and he was a model prisoner brought up in a single-parent family of a third generation of dull scroungers and petty villains. He never had a role model in his life. Burglary was all he knew, and in all likelihood he would ever know, whoever would. Yet he had in his own disordered way moral principles, and he was a keen reader, which was why he never seemed to mind being incarcerated. He was currently on remand after being caught breaking into Brighton's Royal Pavilion, trying to steal one of its most valuable paintings. Senarington gestured for him to sit. Spicer gave him a sheepish grin. Nice to see you again, sir. It would be nicer not to see you here, Darren. But it doesn't seem that's ever going to happen, does it? He hunched his shoulders, lowered his head, and peering at us, Senarington in his almost childlike manner. Yeah, well, I have my dream to be married again and have kids, live in a nice house, have a nice car, but it's not going to happen, is it? You've told me that before, so why not? I have got 170 previous. Who's going to give me a chance? Did you get a nice lump of money about a year ago, Darren? 50,000 quid reward through Crime Stoppers. Couldn't that have set you up? Spicer shrugged, then sniffed and pointed to his nose. That's where most of it went, to tell you the truth. I prefer being inside. I like it in here. The government, I know you told me your reasons before. You like the food, you've got everything paid for, and most of your friends are here, right? Yeah, and I like the Christmas dinner especially. 50 grand could have bought you a lot of Christmas dinners. Yeah, you're right. He nodded, and for an instant the governor detected a wistful look in this man's eyes. So you have something to tell me that's urgent. Spicer looked around furtively and up towards the ceiling, as if worried there was other people in the room. Then he leaned forward and lowered his voice to whisper. It's about a bloke I've been chatting with under a mind wing, sir. Who's that? His name's Bryce Lauren. Suddenly Spice had Settering's full attention. Okay, what about him? Well, the thing is, I don't want to be a snitch, right? The conversation we're having is private, Darren. There are no microphones or cameras in here. You can talk freely. Yeah, well, the thing is, he's trying to hire a hitman. A hitman to do what? To kill his ex, get revenge. Her name's Red Westwood, I think he said. Thing is, he's got a stash, a very big stash. How much? Over 500,000 quid in folding. Cash, yes, cash, and he's offering 50 grand for the hit. And then, has he found any hitmen yet? Well, there's quite a few people in here interested. He told me. I ain't surprised. That's big money, that is. So what haven't you got? Had a go for it yourself? Spicy good. I have. I told him I knew just the bloke, but then I wanted to know the dough was real first. Has he told you where? He's willing to tell me where. Some of it is the 50 spread over 2 different bank security boxes. He'll pay half now to show his real, the balance on completion. And has he told you where these boxes are, Darren? No, but he will tell me where the first one is if I can confirm I have someone. And I suppose you can cut if you want. Yeah, I suppose you want to cut if you tell the police, right? Yeah, that's it. I'll cut. He's shrugged. Someone's going to do it for that money, Mr. Sherman. So that's a lot of money, that is. Thanks for listening.